Hey everybody, it's kind of a different sort of video this time. I'm not really sure how to do it. I feel a little bit strange, almost like an imposter because I'm really not a woodworker, but I've been wanting to do this project for years. About 5 years ago, right when we started law school, the summer after we started law school actually, we had a terrible storm that blew down a tree in the front yard of the house where we were living. It was a big maple tree, blew down, it was hollow, and I salvaged a couple of logs from that tree, hoping that someday I might be able to make a drum. Well, with some very rudimentary tools and some scrap lumber and a few bucks for some, I don't know what this is called. It's a really long bolt piece of stock. I made a jig and I am milling down this log, this hollow log, and I'm going to make a drum out of it. So you can see the log here. The owner of the home where we were living had some kid that he knew come and chop the tree into segments so it could be stacked into firewood, and he didn't cut it very straight. So I had to sort of shim up the weird angle so the rod would go in straight. Yeah, so you can sort of see how the whole mechanism works right here. And underneath is an ancient router that my dad gave me. So a router, I undermounted it onto this table, made this little jig. The router blade is coming up through there, and I'll set this thing up so maybe you can see what's going on. And as you can see, it's actually doing the job. So a little at a time, I'm going to mill this thing down until it is perfectly circular or cylindrical. And once it's perfectly cylindrical, I'll be able to use, I'll take this back to my dad's place. He's got a table saw, and I'll be able to make perfectly perpendicular end cuts. And if this thing works, I've got it centered the best that I can, but I only have so much wood to work with. This is all naturally hollowed out, and it might get too thin in spots. My plan is any holes or cracks that show up in the wood, I'll fill up with epoxy. And then once I have the outside all figured out, then I'll use a sharp chisel to clean out the inside. I don't want the inside to be perfectly smooth. I actually want the rougher look. I mean, not completely rough. I'm going to have it sort of, finished a little bit, but I'll just use a chisel and sandpaper to take out the inside. And then cut the bearing edges and get some hardware on it. We'll see how it goes. But the first step is to get the milling done. You start down here. It's really loud. Watch your ears. I might be taking off too much at a time. Slowing down quite a bit. I didn't realize I was taking off that much. So I'm going to lower the blade a little bit and see if I can take an easier pass on this thing. Isn't that pretty? I mean, I know a lot of that's bark. I have no idea how this is going to turn out, if it's going to be a musical instrument that's worth a darn. But this is my first time doing it, and the learning experience is going to be more than worth it. Maybe this is too much information, but I should probably have one of those masks. I have a feeling I'm going to be blowing sawdust boogers for the next few days. I can't even tell you how nerdy excited I am about this. Seriously, I wanted to do this for so long. A couple of things. So, I didn't actually plan this, but it really worked out perfectly, that as I rotate the log, of course, the threads move it along at a very good pace for milling the wood. The problem, though, is that this table is not perfectly flat because maybe it's to be expected. I didn't plan the location or the position of the router very well because in order to keep going from here, obviously, I have to move the entire jig about 9 inches to the left. That doesn't make a big difference at this stage, but it leaves, it sits lower when it's over here. I made a drum once years ago. There was a big branch that fell off of a different maple tree in the house in the backyard of the house where I grew up in Dover, Ohio. And I was back from, I guess it was back from my mission. Yeah, it was right before Mom and Dad moved out to the farm. Anyway, it was already hollowed out, but I used some of Dad's chisels to hollow it out evenly, but I didn't do much to make it, I didn't really do anything to make it cylindrical. I just sort of borrowed the shape of the tree as it was. And I went to help out the youth at the Boy Scout camp that summer, and some guy was selling rawhide deer skins. So I skinned it with a deer hide, which was pretty cool. And I got it rigged up and hardwared so I could put it up with my drum set. Didn't sound like much, but it was kind of cool looking. I sold it somewhere along the line. This, though, because it's going to be round, should sound, well, it will at least sound like an ordinary drum. I don't know if it'll sound great or not, but it's pretty dang cool. It's cool! And let me just give you an idea of how minimal my tools are. I've got an ancient router, I've got a drill, I've got some bits, and I've got a circular saw. Sort of, I have a circular saw. That is the extent of my tools. So if nothing else, this is proof of concept that you can make a drum with nothing but a drill, a circular saw, and a router. I'm gonna have to get some chisels though. All right, gonna do one more pass going that way, then I gotta go to bed. Well, I must have made some progress. That's about 5 pounds of shavings. Hey everybody, so it's the next day. It's a little bit earlier than I anticipated getting to work on the project again, but John shoved a nerd up his nose and was beside himself, and I was looking for an excuse to get out of the office. Anyway, so I'm home, John's asleep in bed, and I was warned by Angie last night that the router is really, really loud, and she's a little worried that I was bothering the neighbors. Thankfully it's Friday, maybe late at night won't be so bad on a Friday. We'll see. So I've got this thing cylindrical enough now that the only problem with it spinning this low to the table is that, right there. Well, I seem to have run into a problem with the router. I don't see a problem, but it is a different noise now. That was not happening before. So I think I need to do, I need to take it off and take a look at it. Well, there are two potential problems. One, I just shook all of that out of the router, probably because it's been upside down. Second, you hear that? I think I saw what that might be. You look, are those fan blades? I think I'm missing one. I think one of those fan blades has come off. That would certainly make it spin unevenly. Crap. Well, I figured out the problem. I was right. If you look in there, you can see that I'm missing a couple of fan blades. There they are right there. Just managed to torque off or something.
Okay, go get the Windex for him, okay?
The fan blade itself, is cracked. I'm wondering if I can just take the whole thing off. I might I'm gonna reach in with some pliers and I'm gonna pop off, because I'm missing two from the bottom right there. You can see that, yeah, there it is, now you can see it. I'm missing two from down there, and I think I'm missing one on the other side. No, not missing any. So I'm gonna reach in with a pair of needle nose pliers and just break off two of the other ones so at least it spins balanced. Maybe eventually the whole thing will just blow apart and I can take it out piece by piece. Well, I've got my trusty sidekick here. He's awake from his nap. And I don't know if the nerd he shoved up his nose has worked its way out, but he seems to be feeling a little bit better, which is good. But in the reassembly of the router, I've run into another problem. Well, I have some terrible news. It's very sad. The router that my dad gave me has given up the ghost. In order to make it more balanced, in order to balance it at all so it didn't shake the entire table off the wall, I had to take off one of the blades from the fan. Well, after running it for a few minutes, another blade came off all on its own. Guess what this blade did? It got into the motor and tore it apart. See that piece of plastic right there? That's glue of some sort that was used on the motor to hold wires in place. So I don't even have to open it up the rest of the way, just a minute, John, to know that it is completely shot. That piece of fan blade just tore apart the insides. So there's no more routing tonight. No more milling the drum, unless I convince myself it's okay to get myself an early Christmas present and go get a new router. Be about $100. I'm debating. I've been waiting for this project for a long time, and I'm making real progress, and now I have to stop.
Dad!